Well, news of the girls' release came as Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari left Nigeria for a 3-day state visit to Germany. Well, let's get more update now from CCTV's Deji Badmus. He's standing by for us in Lagos, and Guy Henderson live for us in Berlin. Deji, to you first. There appears to be conflicting reports there on the circumstances surrounding the release of the girls. Is there any clarity on whether or not some Boko Haram militants were released as part of that deal?
Well, there's nothing like that. That's what the government has been saying. Exactly what the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, said there, that this is not a swap deal. And the sense you get from what the minister said there, that this was not a swap deal, is that this could just be Boko Haram now showing a sign of good faith, that good faith now that it can be trusted, and that it can be trusted to carry out a negotiation with the government and keep its own side of the bargain. If you take your mind back to some weeks ago, this same minister came out to say on 2 occasions the government actually reached out to Boko Haram and that it was close to reaching an agreement, close to reaching a swap deal with Boko Haram, but that Boko Haram changed its mind now at the dying minute. So from what the minister has said, he said nothing, like there was no exchange at all. It was not a swap deal, so that all the Boko Haram commanders are still in government custody. This, as I said, could just be a sign of good faith on the part of Boko Haram, and that, you know, that the government could actually go into dialogue and negotiation with it now for subsequent, you know, for the release of the remaining 200 and something girls. Beatrice?
Well, Guy, President Buhari left Nigeria shortly after confirming the release of the Chibok girls. Is news of the girls' release expected to impact the tone of discussions during his visit there?
Well, it's arguably very well timed. It certainly, I think could give President Buhari a bit more space to be able to say in his meeting with the German Chancellor on Friday that he is making further progress when it comes to security issues, and specifically in terms of dealing with Boko Haram. In the wake of his election victory, there was this wave of international optimism. He was the sort of unwritten guest of honour, certainly in the eyes of the media here in Germany, during the G7 summit back in June 2015. Shortly after that, he headed to Washington for talks with US President Barack Obama. Certainly this troubled region of Africa has moved right up the priority list for European countries, Germany included, because Boko Haram has pledged allegiance to Islamic State. Islamic State is obviously a group that has global ambitions, that has been able to stage attacks right in the heart of Europe at the moment from weak or failed states in the Middle East. And European leaders and in Washington, there are politicians who are determined to make sure that regions of Africa do not become a similar staging ground.
Well, Deji, 21 of the missing Chibok girls have been released, and Boko Haram had earlier claimed that some of the girls may have been killed in military airstrikes. Do we know how many are still alive and what the government is doing to secure their release?
Well, it's difficult at this moment to tell how many of the girls are still alive. Not even the government would be able to tell you that. We know that Boko Haram some time ago, I'm talking about the Boko Haram under the leadership of Abubakar Shekau now, came out some time ago to say that some of the girls were actually killed in a military airstrike. But of course, nobody has been able to independently confirm that. We do not know how many of the girls are still remaining. And we do not know if these girls now are split between the 2 factions of Boko Haram. Now, that is what the government will have to find out. And in the course of the negotiation now, I believe all of that will come true. But fact is that the government has made it clear that it is willing to negotiate and dialogue with Boko Haram. The Minister of Information made that very, very clear today, that the government will go ahead with a negotiation now with Boko Haram to release the remaining girls. And if this was a sign of Boko Haram, you know, showing that it is to be trusted and can be trusted to negotiate with the government, then there's no question at all that that negotiation will go on. Now, what Boko Haram may be demanding subsequently, we cannot tell. But surely, in terms of how many of the girls are still being held by Boko Haram, quite difficult to tell. What we do know is that there are over 200 of them that are supposed to be held by Boko Haram, but we do not know if they are up to that number. But no question at all that the security agencies will be able to glean some information from some of these girls that have been released, and maybe in the days to come would be able to get that information, and that information will filter out to the public now as to what might be the fate of some of the girls whom that Boko Haram actually claimed were killed in that airstrike. Right.
Well, Guy, Nigeria's president is now in Berlin. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has been in Africa recently. What do observers there, though, make of this apparent renewal of German interest in Africa?
Yeah, it's been a pretty intense few days for the Chancellor, and Africa very much the focus. A three-country tour through Mali, Niger, Ethiopia. The President of Chad was here 24 hours ago, and then on Friday, President Buhari will have his meeting with the Chancellor here. Traditionally, Germany is actually seen as a country, certainly by its European partners, as a country that perhaps punches below its weight somewhat when it comes to foreign diplomacy and certainly security and military issues outside Europe's borders. And I think to some extent that there is a wide acceptance amongst the German public that there is a need to tackle some of the big challenges facing Germany and Europe, the refugee crisis, the threat of terrorism, closer to its source, those areas from Africa to the Middle East to Ukraine. But by the same token, there is traditionally, I think, a distinctly low public willingness to become overly involved in unstable states in military situations, and that's why, for example, just a contribution of 550 or so German troops to the UN mission, peacekeeping mission in Mali, actually stimulated quite a lot of debate here and was seen by some as quite controversial. All that to say, it's not, of course, just security issues at stake here. Commercial self-interest also part of this trip. There is a business delegation with the Nigerian president here. German companies looking as well to expand into a African market where there is a young population with increasing purchasing power.
Right, Guy Henderson for us there in Berlin, and Deji Badmus in Lagos. To you both, thank you.